We're going to be looking at 5 realistic targets for free agency for the Indiana Fever. We are working under the assumption that these 3 are coming back. Lexi's coming back. Sophie's coming back. That is the assumption that I'm working with. Because if Kelsey goes, then clearly you have...
Let's work on the assumption. A phrase that should worry every Indiana Fever fan right now. Because while everyone is busy arguing about whether Kelsey Mitchell stays or leaves, there's a far bigger question being ignored. What happens if the Fever squander Caitlin Clark's rookie contract window by bringing back the wrong players?
First player is a backup center. And I think Demiris Dantas' time with the Fever is probably done. I don't see Dantas playing with the Fever again, if I'm being honest. I think Bree Turner's not good enough. I just think in general Bree Turner is not good enough. So for me, Elizabeth Williams is a good...
Elizabeth Williams is 33, coming off a disastrous season in Chicago where the sky fell apart in spectacular fashion. But here's what the box score doesn't tell you. Angel Reese actually posted a better defensive rating with Williams on the floor than with Camila Cardoso. Williams shot nearly 50% from the field and provided the veteran stability that team badly needed. So the real question isn't whether she's good enough to be a backup center. She is. The real question is whether the Fever can sign her near a minimum contract now that Chicago's collapse has tanked her market value. Because if they can, this might end up being one of the smartest early moves of the entire offseason.
But this would be one of my things where I'm like, I don't hate the Fever doing this, but I don't see them doing it. So the Indiana Fever had a player a couple of years ago that is the perfect player, a much better version of Natasha Howard, but it will cost quite a lot of money to keep her, and it's Temi. I still think Temi is the perfect power forward to play beside Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. We saw it. The lineup of Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, Temi, Aaliyah, and
2 years ago, the lineup of Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, Temi Fagbenel, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell was statistically the best 5-player unit in basketball. Then the Fever let Temi walk. She went to Golden State, fixed her jumper, stayed healthy, and turned into exactly what Indiana needed at the 4. Now she's a restricted free agent. The Valkyries have to keep their entire core together on expansion team money, and the Fever actually have cap space. The math isn't complicated. What's complicated is whether Indiana's front office is willing to admit it made a mistake letting her go in the first place.
And I have a weird feeling if they flame out on their A option, Natasha Howard on a near max contract is coming back. And I don't think you have a championship. I don't think you can win a championship with Natasha Howard starting and Michaela Timpson as her backup. I don't think you can win a championship with that because there are too many games. Natasha Howard is either brilliant or absolutely terrible. And the problem is that Natasha Howard does not play well with Caitlin Clark. So if the Fever are planning on winning with Caitlin Clark, I think...
Here's the uncomfortable truth about Natasha Cloud. She doesn't fit well with Caitlin Clark. The numbers back it up. When they share the floor, the spacing shrinks, defensive assignments slip, and the offense stalls out. Cloud is either brilliant or borderline unplayable, with no reliable pattern in between. If the Fever are serious about building around Clark, paying Cloud near max money makes no sense. But if they strike out on their A-tier free agent targets, there's a real chance they bring her back anyway. And that's exactly how championship windows close before they ever really open.
Either of them can slide in. Aaliyah can slide in at the 4 if she gets the 3 ball. Temi can slide in at the 4, obviously. And then Sophie can slide up to the 4. So for me, that's your perfect rotation. Then you've got KK Timpson as a player. I'm absolutely fine with those 5 players sharing the 4-5. But it's going to cost quite a bit to get Temi out of Golden State. I do think in general that that Golden State, because they have to keep basically their whole team. Almost their entire team are free agents. So it's not going to be hard to it's not going to be easy to keep all their players together if you're the Valk.
Temi will cost roughly 3/4 of a max contract to pull from Golden State. That's a steep price for a player who was on Indiana's roster just 2 seasons ago. But compare that investment to the alternative. Natasha Cloud comes back. Michaela Timpson stays the backup. And the Fever basically roll out the same roster that got bounced in the first round. With Temi, the ideal five-woman frontcourt rotation becomes Williams, Fagbennel, and Boston cycling through the 4 and 5, with KK Timpson as the emergency option. That's championship caliber depth. That's a frontcourt that can finally challenge the Aces and the Liberty. But it only happens if the Fever spend now, during Caitlin Clark's rookie contract window, when they have the most financial flexibility.
Who had a disaster season for Chicago. An absolute disaster season. But it all depends on whether you believe that this is Beck Allen or whether you believe that the Chicago Sky is a shit show. I think it's the latter. I think Beck Allen as a bench option is unbelievable. Is absolutely unbelievable. I genuinely think that Beck Allen could be a 6th player of the year candidate. She can play the 4, she can play the 3. She shoots the shit out of the ball. And people don't realize that. He genuinely...
Allen dropped 27 points in a win against Dallas last season. 27 points at a moment when Chicago needed every single one of them. Then Tyler Marsh benched her. Then her minutes disappeared. Then the entire Sky organization spiraled into dysfunction. With the Phoenix Mercury, Allen averaged 7.4 points on 36% from 3 and 42% from the field. Solid production for a bench wing. Before that, she was a starter on a Connecticut Sun team that nearly made the finals, playing under Stephanie White, the same Stephanie White now coaching the Fever. Allen's jumper is pure. When she gets a clean look, it's automatic. And after the Chicago fiasco, she's fighting to keep her WNBA career alive, making her a minimum contract candidate with real starter upside.
Started the season. Like, if you look at game logs, like, there were games in Chicago, and that was the problem with her in Chicago, was the inconsistency. But if you look at games at the start of the year, she had 7 against the Fever, 11-11, didn't do much in this game, but 13-7-8. Like, that's nearly 10 points a game for starting the season. Then had a big lull, and had 27 points in a win against Dallas, in a win where all 27 of those points were pretty much needed. Had a good and okay run for a few games. It was just an inconsistency from Tyler Marsh.
Kennedy Burke shot 41% from 3 and 46% from the field last season. Then she had a rough playoff series, and suddenly her value plummeted. The New York Liberty are facing tough roster decisions. They can't afford to keep everyone. Burke may be the piece they sacrifice to preserve the supporting cast around Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. Burke is a true 3 and D wing, an archetype that's surprisingly rare in the WNBA. She can guard positions 2 through 4, moves laterally much faster than she looks, and did an outstanding job defending Caitlin Clark in their first matchup. And thanks to that poorly timed playoff slump, the Fever might be able to land her at a discounted price.
It's not going to be easy for the New York Liberty to afford to keep their team together. And Kennedy Burke might be one of those players they lose. The likes of Kennedy Burke, Izzy Harrison, they might have to pick and choose. If they want to keep Natasha Cloud, maybe they choose Izzy Harrison and say, you know what, we don't need Kennedy Burke. Kennedy Burke's not going to be cheap, because I do think she brings a lot of value in that 3-and-D role, which is a weirdly uncommon archetype, and it's an archetype that you need. She's a better defender than Beck Allen. I'm not going to say she's a better shooter. She's a better wide open shooter than Beck Allen. She's a more consistent
Letitia Ami here plays hard. She's a dog. She runs, jumps, crashes the boards, and causes havoc everywhere. She's not a reliable shooter yet, but she's already a more polished version of Michaela Timpson. Longer, switchable, disciplined, and capable of guarding multiple positions. The real question is whether the Valkyries want to bring her back, or whether they prioritize other pieces. If Indiana can get her on a cheap deal, she becomes a utility big who can play the 3 through 5. Put Caitlin Clark next to that kind of athleticism, and her impact in transition becomes even more valuable. And here's what the Fever front office needs to understand about this offseason. Caitlin Clark is on a rookie contract for 3 more years. That's the championship window. That's the moment when you have a generational franchise-changing player making below-market money, creating the cap space you need to build a contender around her. The worst outcome isn't overpaying for Temi Fagbennel. The worst outcome is running back the same roster that got bounced in the first round, convincing themselves that another year of development will magically fix the spacing issues and defensive breakdowns that plagued them all season. Elizabeth Williams, at 33, is a smart veteran minimum signing. She's a capable backup center who won't hurt you in spot minutes. She shoots near 50%, plays reliable defense, and understands how to contribute without needing touches. After the Chicago meltdown, her value is at an all-time low, which is exactly when intelligent front offices strike. But she's still a role player. She's not moving the needle. The real decision is Temi Fagbenel. Does the Fever go after her aggressively enough to actually pry her from Golden State? Because the Valkyries are boxed in financially. They're an expansion team trying to keep their entire core together. They simply can't pay everyone. If Indiana offers Temi 3/4 of a max contract, Golden State probably can't match without gutting the rest of their roster. Temi fixed her jumper. She stayed healthy. She became the ideal power forward next to Clark and Aaliyah Boston. And the lineup data from 2 years ago proves it. That group was the best 5-player combination in basketball. Only now, Fagbenel is even better. The Fever already let her walk once. They can't afford to make that mistake again. If they miss on Fagbenel, if Golden State matches, or she chooses to stay, then Indiana needs to pivot immediately to Kennedy Burke or Beck Allen. Both are real rotation players who make the team better on day one. Burke is the steadier option, a true 3 and D wing, a rare archetype in the WNBA. She shot 41% from 3 last year, guards multiple positions, and handled Clark extremely well in their first matchup. Her playoff slump tanked her value, and New York can't keep everyone. That's exactly the kind of situation sharp front offices exploit. Allen is riskier, but has a higher ceiling. She was a key piece in major trades, first for Jonquil Jones, then for Alyssa Thomas. Teams valued her until the Chicago chaos derailed everything. Stephanie White coached her in Connecticut and knows what she can do in a functional, structured system. If White believes she can resurrect Allen's career and they can get her near the minimum, that's absolutely a bet worth making. The depth pieces matter, too. Letitia Ami here is a restricted free agent who likely won't cost much. She's raw, but she's athletic, energetic, and versatile. Exactly the kind of player who can give you spot minutes in specific matchups without needing any offensive load. But here's the common thread with every one of these targets. They're only realistic if the Fever are willing to spend money now. Not next year, not after Clark's rookie deal expires. Now, when they have maximum cap flexibility and the chance to build a genuine championship roster around a generational talent who's still on a discount salary. The alternative. Running it back with Natasha Cloud. Hoping the spacing magically improves. Hoping the defensive breakdowns disappear. Hoping experience alone closes the gap between Indiana and the Aces or Liberty. That's not a plan. That's hope. And hope is not a strategy. Championship windows are shorter than people think. The Fever has 3 years. 3 years before Clark's rookie deal ends and she commands a max contract. 3 years before the cap tightens, before scouting adjusts, before the window starts closing. So the question for the Fever front office is simple. Are you serious about winning a championship? Or are you serious about running a comfortable, profitable franchise that makes the playoffs and bows out in the first round? Because those are not the same goal and they do not require the same level of financial commitment. Elizabeth Williams, Temi Fagbenel, Kennedy Burke, Beck Allen, and Letitia Ami here. 5 realistic targets, all available, all upgrades, all capable of fitting next to Clark in Boston. Indiana can afford all of them if they prioritize winning over saving money. And here's the truth. In 3 years, when Clark's rookie deal is over and the championship window has closed, nobody will remember that they stayed under the luxury tax. They'll only remember whether they WON.SO which version of the Indiana Fever shows up this offseason, the one ready to build a championship roster around a generational superstar, or the one ready to bring back Natasha Cloud, preach continuity, and waste another year of Caitlin Clark's prime. Let me know in the comments what you think the Fever should do.